right, so we're going to try this now and record. What a freaking mess this has been. I got cables everywhere. What was the guitar sounds we use on Ordo, Aurum, Archeia? Let's take a look deep inside our Studio One session here for Portent of Flame in particular. 90 tracks on this particular session here. And what we used for all the album guitars was Neural DSP Archetype Gojira, as you can see right here. We used a lot of the presets. In fact, so for my guitars across the album, I used JD Rhythm 9. Eero or Tyler or anybody else that had their part in rhythm guitars or main guitars throughout the entire album, a lot of times used JD Rhythm 1. And it ended up being very good. Kevin Butler from Test Tube Audio ended up using those sounds just as is, just the presets, and ended up working out really well. So as you could tell right here, this was inside the box here. You had just a 2x12 cab. You had a dynamic like an SM57, and you also had a ribbon microphone over here on the other speaker. And, distance was right up against the screen. Off center, off the cone, just a little bit on each one. And then if we look at gain was at 2 o'clock. The lows were down a little bit. Mids were not scooped. We did not scoop the mids on this album. High were about 2 o'clock. Presence is about the same thing. Depth was down a little bit right there. This right here was the EQ setting for my guitars. Like I said, just standard preset, a -5 cut at 65, and really down across the top there as well. You had a little bit of the plug-in overdrive, and for anybody that doesn't know, it's the same thing if you do with a tube screamer or any type of clean boost. You can use any type of overdrive pedal for a clean boost. You turn that distortion all the way down and the level all the way up, and that's going to slam the signal into whatever you're pushing it into and give it a little more sizzle. And so that's something that I didn't know for a very long time until I got me a tube screamer, and that was the thing I was missing all those years. So no other things going on right there. 90 tracks. As like I said, there was a lot going on, as some people have pointed out, in this session right here. So if we go to our synthesizers and we bring up what we had here, we had all kinds of things. You had a lot of this was presets inside Studio One, Presence XT, your violins, your French horns, your choir, but Labs by Spitfire Audio, I believe, has a lot of good stuff, and a lot of it's free as well, and a lot of different sounds that you can get out of there. A Blast. Let's take a look at that right there and just listen to what it sounds like on its own. Yes, an orchestral blast. Yes. So that was a big thing in that song. I was really wanting to go big orchestra, very much like Flesh God Apocalypse. Dimmu Borgir, when they would use different orchestras and actually real orchestras. Well, I can't afford a real orchestra, so I have this right here. Let's see, Orchestra Hit. That's a very good one right there. Let's listen to that. Oh, that wasn't very much. Okay, just a little added. Ghostly Clusters. I know we had something else. You had some type of horn blast, low choir drone, no? Ghostly Clusters. Like I said, there is a lot going on in this session. Dark fluttering there at the beginning. Is it Ghostly Clusters? It's been so long I can't even remember. Yes. Yes, very Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight. Very much so, a lot like that is what I was trying to go for there. Let's listen to that again. Woo! Yes. Moving on now to the drums. Let's go to the drums. What I ended up having to do was take everything out of Crim drums, and I know there's a better way to do it, but I couldn't figure it out in time. Literally take each individual track and solo it inside Kontakt, and then render it out to its own specific track. I know there's a better way to do it. Like I said, I couldn't figure it out at the time, but what we have here, Crim drums, MIDI final. All right, as you can see here, Crim drums is what we used for the sounds on this album. That guy is really, really good. He drums with Doth, Septic Flesh, a bunch of other bands. Forgive me for not naming them all right now. Septic Fleshlight. That was the preset that we used for these drum sounds. Really, again, just stock, right out of the box, drum sound. You know, all kinds of things going on right there. Oh. You'll notice two different kick drum sounds tuned just slightly different. So what we did on that was that Asaph ended up recording onto an electronic kit, and then I went in, transferred all the MIDI into this session right here. So I transferred all the MIDI into this session and then applied it into Crim Drums and had to do a little bit of different mapping with the MIDI. But it was, overall, it worked out really well. I would highly recommend these sounds for if you have an album and, you can't afford to go to a nice studio, because, look, it costs thousands of dollars. We all know that. If you don't have the money to do that, do have, a lot of times what we have done before is we would get together and we would practice, and we would work out the drum rhythms and the beats and everything else live with each other, and then we would take what we did and record it just with some crappy mics down here like that, and that would give him the idea to also play into the E-kit. And a lot of bands you can do that as long as you can play the parts. It's totally fine. You can play the parts, and then you end up. It's just like a transferring of information. Crim Drums, really good. That's what we used on there. Let's take a look at the bass sound. I was very, very happy with the bass sound. All right, let's go to the bass right here. Neural DSP once again. Parallax bass plug-in. What we used throughout the album was called a bit of rattle, which is off of the Forrester Savell presets. A bit of rattle gives just a little bit of you can hear it. It gives just the right amount of like click and glitch and whatever you want to call it. But not too much. A lot of like the bass sound from the band Tyre. And that's kind of what I was going for. I was listening to them a lot around the time of we were tracking bass. So I ended up using that. And as you can tell right here, what we have, really cut down in the 500 to 700 to 1,000 hertz. And so that's just some of the things across the album. Just a basic overview. Until next time, we love you guys. Stay metal.